Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Come Correct podcast, the podcast where we specialize in targeting guests in AI, private equity, fintech, and venture capital. I'm here with my co host, Jordan, and Sean Anderson, the Chief Growth Officer and owner of Tridorian. So let's just get into everything. So, talk to me about the pivot that you made from 66 Degrees, a well established Google firm, to Tridorian.
I was at 66 Degrees for about 4 years, and I built a bunch of different practices there, ran sales teams, and I was on our executive leadership team. Um, I've been building businesses for 4 years, and I wanted to go back to a smaller firm that I could grow from an earlier stage. I also wanted to focus more on different segments. So I've been working a lot with large enterprise companies like Fortune 500, Fortune 100. I wanted to work more with smaller firms and helping them adopt AI and other new technologies.
What's the difference between working for a Fortune 100 company, a Fortune 500 company, and a scrappy startup company?
Cultures are different across all of them. So I think um, I love working with all kinds of different companies. And I think one of the things I love the most about working in consulting is that you get to work with so many different clients across industries and different phases of maturity and uh, different cultures.
hmm
I had a boss really early on in my career who told me when I was interviewing for him that his favorite thing about our interview was that I had worked directly with like sole proprietors at an early startup I was at, and like they can be some of the most demanding, hard businesses to work with, right? So size isn't necessarily what determines how hard it is to work with a company. I think a lot of it is just their mindset and their culture, and if they're interested in actually building and evolving, and if they, or if they're just trying to keep things status quo.
So I actually heard that you are very demanding and difficult to work with. And I want to know, do you think that sometimes it causes your employees to fall behind because of the pressure, or does it motivate them to grow?
I think that every manager, when they start out leading people, makes the mistake of trying to manage to activities and the way that people work. And that's micromanagement. And I think that can be really hard to work with and to deal with as somebody who's working for a leader like that. But I also think there's a balance as a leader where you're managing people to a certain accountability, and you are trying to push for more output, and you are trying to have them continually raise the bar for themselves. So as long as they have the autonomy to solve problems and generate results, if you give them enough space to figure out how to do that, even if you're holding them to a high standard, I think it's really enjoyable to work in a culture like that.
So, your leadership style has been described as the make it happen type of style. Do you think that that's ever cost you a relationship, a deal, or an employee?
I think so. I mean, again, it's a balance. It's pushing people and holding people accountable to a certain level of success, also giving people the freedom to do things themselves and make it happen. I think really encapsulates that. And that was a cultural value at a company that I was at a few years back. And I've carried it with me because it's this idea that, and especially if you're at a startup or a smaller company, if you want to accomplish something, you have to make it happen. It's not going to be done for you, and there's not necessarily anyone else who's going to come and do it for you or save you.
So Trump just spent time in Beijing. Analysts were saying that America and China can negotiate because they see the world completely different. So they aren't competing for the same thing. Is that the difference in your competitive advantage when bringing Tridorian to America?
I think it's a little bit different. First of all, it's not a geopolitical partnership. So I think our cultures in terms of business, especially with Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, which is primarily where we have team, I think they're pretty similar. The markets are just in different places. So I think that there's a lot of projects that we're doing with our Singapore team or our APAC teams that maybe a lot of like North American companies have already done, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Not necessarily with AI. I think with AI we're all in kind of the same place, but there's there's more like fundamental technology transformations that I think North America was actually ahead of compared to some of these other markets. And that this is a little bit different than working with China because we don't work with China, but customers in these other APAC countries, I think we're seeing basically just different stages of maturity.
Just now that you've come to North America, what are you looking for when you're hiring employees? Do you consider values first? Are you more looking for credentials, skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends a little bit on the role because I think credentials and skills are super important in our technical roles. But in all roles, especially at a smaller company, the intangibles are huge. So I think people who have drive and ambition and want to actually be part of building something new from the ground up, that's a very different level of effort and engagement than maybe a, established company where you can walk into existing processes and you have a team to help support you. You might have to do a lot more yourself at a smaller organization like ours.
Is it also important to choose a partner who has the same drive, ambition, and morals as you do?
I mean, yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah, I met Jason, my partner, who's our president, and he put in, a year plus of figuring out what the strategy was going to be, bringing it over Tridorian to the US. And we met late last year. We had a 30-minute conversation, and pretty much by the end of it, both of us were like, this is the right fit.
You're a match made in heaven.
I think it's a really good match. And we complement each other well. And I mean, one of the things that I told him in our first conversation was I'm a little rough around the edges. And like, I'm not a corporate, necessarily like a very corporate type. And he was like, that's actually very good for what we need to accomplish.
So with that being said, what was actually different about how you built that team?
I think I'm demanding a lot all at the same time, especially because we're new. So we have to build process. At the same time, we have to deliver great results for customers. At the same time, we have to build a brand, stay up on the latest in technology trends, and be experts in our craft and be experts in the technologies we use. I mean, there's so much that we're doing all the time. So it's asking for like a really high level of output and activity.
What are some core demands that you had for your team that you would say others typically don't?
There's a high level of collaboration. We all have to work together, learn from each other. We have to communicate really effectively with each other. And we're a remote team. So finding ways.
So you're not in office at all?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. You didn't
Yeah.
mention that.
Yeah.
Hour
It's
that we-
an added challenge, I think.
Okay.
I love being in person, and we spend some time working in person. We'll travel to the same place. But I mean, finding creative ways to collaborate when you're remote is really important too. So I think, we'll have working sessions where we're all on camera, just kind of doing our own thing, and we can ask casual questions or chit chat or whatever. We have, different kind of meeting cadences every week, but trying to manage collaboration while also making sure that everyone has a lot of individual and independent responsibility for basically like being their own CEO of themselves. So it's asking people to do, a lot and take on a lot of different responsibilities all at the same time.
And just referring back to 66 Degrees, what did you have to unlearn from that company to run Tridorian effectively?
I think one thing is coming back to the pace of a startup. So I think it's like unlearning the slower pace of a relatively larger, more established firm. I mean, I always ran my businesses at 66 like a startup to a large degree. But there is a difference in speed and level of intensity when you're a smaller team and when you're in like early growth mode. Some of our strategies at Tridorian are different. So I think I've learned a lot from what we were doing at 66 and what I've done in my past. And I've learned from what, the rest of our team has done as well. So I think taking a more prescriptive approach to AI has been really important. So like specifically showing customers what's possible, what we've done for other similar clients, having built like software solutions or AI solutions that customers can implement. That's been a really important thing for building Tridorian so far.
What's your pitch that works to make people trust you?
I think it depends. When I was at 66 Degrees, we were a larger firm and we had already broken into a lot of Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies. And so that F500s typically look for other F500s as their due diligence. So if you already have that logo, it's easier to break in.
Is it kind of the same way as like, I heard this analogy saying if you want to sponsor, the easiest way to get more is just get one.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that first one is the hardest and you may have to like really lean in and invest into a deal to make that work. At Tridorian, We are a newer name and we're a smaller firm. We're about 170 engineers as opposed to 66, which was like, 400 or so. We still have the scale and we have the experience delivering for some large organizations. We've done work for some enterprise logos in the F500 space and range. Because we're a smaller firm, we're a boutique firm, we would fill specific use cases. I was actually just talking to somebody who runs technology for one of the largest hotel chains in the US. And they primarily use large consulting firms like, Accenture and Deloitte. Those are like known quantities. They can do massive, full scale end-to-end transformations for organizations because they have the talent and the experience. They're also really expensive. And they're also very inflexible. They have their way of doing things. So there's still room for a boutique firm like Tridorian to come in and do different smaller pieces of projects, especially in really innovative spaces. We often will come in and just attach maybe a pod of engineers who are doing like tiger teamwork. They might be building out POCs or new apps for a company.
Do you think Tridorian is ever going to be what some people refer to as a unicorn? And can you break down that term for people who don't understand it?
Sure. Yeah. Unicorn is the term for companies that are valued over $1 billion. We'll see. We've got a long way to go.
Do you think that in the next 5 years it's a possibility, or is it not even on the horizon?
Being realistic for a services firm, it's pretty tall order. And I like a couple things. To be super technical, services firms usually get a lower revenue like multiple valuation than like software firms. So we'd probably have to be doing like $500, $600, $700 million of annual revenue to get there. That's pretty possible.
Ballpark yet?
We're not quite there. It's a good goal.
It's a good goal. Okay, so maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
So every company right now is running on an AI pilot. Very few are in production. You literally built your whole pitch around bridging that gap. What is actually stopping companies from crossing that line? Is it money, fear, or something nobody talks about?
It is a mix. I think, part of it's security because you're introducing all kinds of new security risks potentially if you're implementing AI or like accidentally exposing like sensitive data through AI. There's obviously like the elephant in the room about, is it going to replace jobs? And I think depending on the company and where they're at in their technology journey or maturity, they may be more or less impacted by that, but there's always going to be some level of like change management where you're helping people change their workflows and their day-to-day. So that's a big one. I think actually though, like the biggest fear that probably no one is talking about is they just don't know how to use AI, and they know they should, or they've been told they should, or they've got, employees who are using it like on the side, like with their own subscription to AI, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I actually do this inside my enterprise like properly?
So do you go about that trying to replace the jobs that people aren't good at and just have them focus on like those capabilities? Because I think people kind of get mixed up and lost in translation the fact that, hey, we're not necessarily taking over what you're good at. We're making it easier in the areas that you aren't as effective in.
I think it depends. Like I think that there's a real justified fear of certain jobs actually being like replaced. And I think that's like, I don't want to minimize. Like I'm a technology optimist, and I think AI is really cool, but I also think like we can't just pretend it doesn't have impact. So that's like, that needs to be like, we need to talk about that for sure.
How did you kind of dive into all of this? Let's talk about your backstory a little bit.
Yeah, I have a very non-traditional background. I actually majored in anthropology.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I have always been tech savvy. I've like built computers growing up, and I took a lot of computer classes when I was in school.
Was your parents involved?
They were not.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they do?
I shouldn't say that. My dad was also like very tech forward. Like he had a laptop before anyone knew what a laptop was, so he was always really interested in the latest.
Founding parties of the laptop.
He loved to stay really ahead of the curve with technology, and like he found that to be a business advantage for him as an entrepreneur. But yeah, I don't have the normal tech background for sure, but I got really interested in the way that people adopt and use technology long before I was in college. That's one of the things that drew me to anthropology, was it helped me understand how people use tech and why we decide to use the technologies we do. And we don't make the most optimal decisions most of the time. It's a lot about our own values and culture.
Yeah. In terms of AI, how do you think it's going to scale in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that it's going to become much more widely used. So only about 50% of people in the US are using it right now, which is a lot, but also I think eventually it's going to be like 80.
Being proficient in AI and Claude, Gemini, all of the apps, is that a profitable skill right now that people should be learning?
Definitely. People who learned how to code, people who learned how to use basic tools like Microsoft Office, those are the people who did really well during that whole technology transformation. We're at another transformation like that. And actually, I've been talking a lot with my engineering team. I think one of the coolest things we've been talking about lately is what does the actual like future of our work look like with AI? And they basically don't even make work like output anymore. So if I ask them, hey, team, can we please create a project plan for this customer? They don't do that. They go and they instead build agents that do that thing. And so what their work products look like or what they're actually doing every day is building agents.
They're essentially building their own team of employees.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there somewhere where that can go south?
definitely.
And can you explain that to me?
I think it's understanding the limitations of what AI can and can't do and when you need people to be in the loop and review outputs and when you don't. And it's also about where AI is good and trustworthy and where it's not.
Okay, so talk to me about Tridorian scale. You went from 0 to 15.6 mil. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
In Singapore, yeah.
In 24 months.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very big number for a very small timeline.
Yeah. So Jason and I, my business partner, we took Singapore, we took Tridorian from Singapore and we basically entered into a joint venture to bring them to the US and North American market. I think that their growth in Singapore is really impressive. And it's one of the things that attracted us to partnering with this company. They have an incredible culture. They had been in a period of time where people were still basically just talking about whether or not AI could even be a thing. They were already like implementing it and getting real results and
We're
measuring.
much more advanced than us.
They were way ahead. And there's differences in, I think, the market that they serve in North American market for sure. Like in some areas, maybe we're ahead, in some areas they're ahead.
Is their market more demanding than ours?
I think it's a mix. Like there are some areas where there's more maturity there, and there's some areas where there's less in the tech maturity perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's an example of an area that there's less tech maturity?
Yeah. Also depends on the country, but like in the US, I think, or in North America, we've been going through like a data and cloud infrastructure modernization trend for like 10 years. That hasn't been as expansive in a lot of parts of Asia. Maybe like China's an exception, maybe like to some degree like Japan.
I've heard Japan and China are like much more advanced in a technological sense than we ever will be.
And in some ways they totally are. I think like if you look at like super apps, we don't really have those in the US, but like, the fact that people can basically run most of their functions of their life online.
The super app.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
one I mentioned to you before. Yeah.
Lion is like huge there too, where they're using basically like a text-based app to do all this stuff.
Do you think Tridorian is ever going to have its own app, or do you guys already have an app?
We don't, we're not really trying to make our own apps. We build some of our own like proprietary tech that we help that we'll like deploy for customers. So
What you're building right now, with the fact that every business hits a ceiling where working harder starts working, AI supposedly removes that ceiling. So where is Tridorian's ceiling right now, and what specifically are you building to break through it?
yeah, I mean, we're implementing AI a lot ourselves. Like our engineering teams are like a lot of the work they do is actually just building agents or building like AI tools that do certain jobs that they need to do. And so that's a totally different approach than in the past. So now it might be like instead of spending a day building a certain like script or coding, they might create an agent and then they can use that like forever. And that, now a task that used to take a day takes like 20 minutes.
Are you willing to disrupt your own profits before someone else does? Are you guys kind of having creative destruction and seeing what works and what doesn't?
I actually think that's a big reason why I wanted to start Tridorian and join this team was because I think that older engineering services firms are pivoting slower to an AI era. So yeah, our teams are adopting the same technologies that we're helping implement for our customers. We have to practice what we preach.
Yeah. So what's an example of some signals that you send to build that trust?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, is like this is really cool. We've built demos for customers of AI tools, and we built the demos using AI tools. So we literally created an agent that creates demos.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's like if you were a customer and you're on a call with us and we're showing you, here's how we can build, let's say, like a new like customer support voice agent. So your customers can call you and like have a normal conversation and get service and not get mad at the robot on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
We can build a whole demo and like show them how to do that. And we don't even have to code or build anything. We just basically type it up. We say, here's what I'd like to build. And then AI will do it for us.
Yeah, and I think that's happening on every level because, like, an example of that is the Washington Post. They're even telling the general public there's now AI podcasts that you can just create to
Yeah.
kind of learn on your own. So, on every level, there is a way for the opposing side to kind of bridge that gap that you're doing. And I think that that's what's most important and kind of like alleviates the fear and brings the optimism more to light.
I think that's a great point. I think like there are valid concerns with all technologies and like AI has some like legit fears we need to address. I do think that the more people who use it and get familiar with it, I think the less irrational the fears become.
Is there anything that you wanted to share with people that people don't know about AI, but in the next 5 years, it's going to be very common knowledge?
It's going to do a lot more than it's doing today, but I also think it's going to be more limited than people probably think. I think it's going to have limitations around how accurate and trustworthy results are. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be perfect because it's not actually intelligent the way that people are. It's basically just guessing.
Will it ever have EQ?
I think it can pretend to, but again, it's just guessing.
So it can have this facade that it does, but it actually doesn't.
Yeah.
So I noticed like a lot of girls, and it's kind of like a joke between us, that they'll ask relationship questions to Claude or to ChatGPT. Is that giving them accurate answers, or is that like not replacing a real person?
I think it comes back to how much you trust it.
Okay.
I think there's value in just bouncing ideas off of it, even if it's giving you wrong responses. If you just trust it, though, your results may vary.
Does it ever repeat itself
What do you-
on two different scales? Like if
That's
I
a
were
great
to
question.
ask one question and you were to ask the same question, but it's for two different users,
Probably get two different answers.
you would.
Yeah.
So it's to the user.
There is a way to control that in a model, and you could basically tune a model to get it to probably give you just about the same output every time, if not the exact output every time, but only for like narrow use cases. Because otherwise, just the way that these algorithms work, just being a probability machine,
Right.
it's probably never going to give you the same answer twice.
Talk to me about entrepreneurship. You've obviously scaled many companies. What's been the hardest one to scale, and what has been the easiest one to scale?
Ooh, okay, good question. I actually think the hardest one to scale was the first one I was at because we were a very early stage VC-backed SaaS company.
Was that
My time.
06? My time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were trying to build, it was the hardest because we were trying to build a online appointment booking platform way before people wanted to even book appointments online.
That was the easiest one? you said?
Hardest.
Hardest.
Yeah.
Why was that the hardest? And did you have more fun doing the easiest one?
I'm having the most fun building Tridorian right now, and it's maybe still very hard.
Yeah.
But I think I've been in the fray for a long time now, so I'm used to it. I think it's a little bit like learning to surf, I guess, where you ride the waves and you recognize that it's really hard and it takes a tremendous number of hours every week. And that's just the way it is.
Is it rewarding though?
Incredibly rewarding.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is fun.
Would you say that you rely on any type of thing to get you through the day? Do you need a coffee before your first meeting, or are you just naturally in the mindset of go, go, go all the time?
I think I can do it under any circumstances at this point. Like I've worked, while I'm traveling, I've worked while I'm in an office, remote. I mean, I've had to jump on calls at midnight with customers in the past. I mean, I'm used to kind of everything.
So when you're first scaling a business, at least for me and Jojo, we've been having nights where it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and we're still working.
Yeah.
But it's like different because you realize that that's what you want to be doing. Is that where you enjoy your life the most, or do you have work-life balance? Talk to me about that.
I have what I think is work-life balance. I mean, first of all, I really like working, so it's not like if I have to work 70 hours in a week, it's not like I'm suffering the whole time. I'm enjoying a lot of it. But I do have balance, and I think it's in my
feel like
20s, I
balance
probably
is like,
didn't.
yeah, I made a new AI agent. That's my balance.
No, I actually, I think I'm more, well, I mean, I did just start a new thing, and so I think that means the balance is skewed more towards work. But even so, like, I think it's really important to have some non-negotiables. Like I follow my fitness schedule really closely, and even if I have to make up workouts at weird hours, like I think it's really important to have those things that you do that keep
You're
you
just
sane.
people that work out at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Rarely, really rarely.
but you have done it.
It's happened.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's
You
not.
have
It's not the best.
very different type of.
Sleep is also really good. So,
Wow.
but no, I think like being de-stressed is also really important because if you are stressed and there's chaos around you and you're reactive and you're overreactive, then yeah, everyone is suffering.
So, how much would you say EQ plays a part in a business setting? Do you have to be emotionally regulated and have an understanding of who people are to be good at business?
I think it's huge. Yeah. First of all, I think you want to build a culture of, like I said, celebrating wins. And so you want positivity and momentum, and you want like positive reinforcement more than you want focusing on what's bad and punishment or criticism. I think who wants to be criticized? I don't, you
You
know,
don't think constructive criticism is good?
I do think that quick, like timely, regular feedback and like honesty is really important. Yeah. I also think the way we do that is really important. Like people are going to be a lot more receptive to it if you're delivering it calmly and if you're delivering it in a way where like they can action on it and learn from it as opposed to just making them feel, like it's personal or like they did something wrong.
Would you say you hold yourself to an extreme high standard and that's why you expect your team and the people under you to kind of meet that standard or be in the same pool of what you want to achieve?
I think especially when you're building something new, everyone has to be at a certain standard. Yeah. So I think this comes back to like this idea of like make it happen leadership, especially at a smaller company, there aren't that many people to do the work. So if you don't all take on a high percentage of the responsibilities and that burden, things just don't get done.
Was there ever a time that you feel like you failed as a boss?
Yeah, for sure. I think, and I failed both ways. Like if it's a continuum, there's like being too lax and letting people just kind of do whatever, and then there's also being too high pressure or too like micromanagement. So it's really, I think, constantly trying to find that balance, and also like maybe you're like going one way or the other depending on if everything is going great, like you could probably ease up a little bit.
Right, okay.
Really.
Really? So you're not harder when things are going great?
I don't think so. Yeah, well, you
Okay.
know, yeah, I think then it's like people are clearly doing the right things.
Right.
Um,
So you've obviously accumulated a lot of wisdom in all the years that you've been doing this, and you're very knowledgeable. Is there ever a business that you had that failed?
so far, none of the businesses that I've worked with have failed, but there have been failures within those businesses. So I've had to pivot a number of times,
So
and
what do you have to?
I've launched services and products that definitely failed.
Was it your team or something that's just instilled in you and your mindset? Have you ever been an employee?
Yeah.
Were you an employee for? Why was it not for you? What did you take away from that you implement onto your employees now?
I've been an employee at everywhere I've been before this, actually, even though I've been in leadership roles,
Okay.
including executive roles.
But you still under people.
I was still, yeah. And I mean, I have a boss now, and I'm always going to have a boss, and my bosses are always going to have bosses, and we all serve our clients and our employees. So, I mean, I think it's a mix. But for me, what I like about being a founder is the opportunity to build and to help define vision.
Do you think it's harder to be a founder than it is to be an employee and have a boss?
I think it depends. I think it's probably harder to be an employee if you want to be a founder.
Okay.
I think it's probably harder to be a founder in terms of there's more risk, more of the responsibility is on your shoulders, and you probably should be working more than the rest of your team.
So what's a standard that is a non-negotiable that you set for your team?
Get the basics right. Show up on time, treat customers perfectly.
Do you lead by that example?
Oh yeah.
Do you like being with customers or do you like being more with your team?
Ooh, that's a good question. I actually do really like both. And over the last like 4 or 5 years, I spent a lot of time with my team building out a lot of our operations and enabling them to succeed with our customers, and spent time with our customers too, but maybe it was like 30% with customers, 70% with my team.
So did your team learn how to mimic how you treated customers?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. And part of my job, I think, is to set standards there, but also give them room to figure out, and have their own innovations and their own style. But now I'm trying to be more 50, 60, 70% with customers is my goal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Prior to AI, was it easier to be in a workspace or was it harder? What's the difference now?
It's interesting because I feel like before AI, technology we had all gotten pretty familiar with what was available, and like things had become very status quo.
Right.
There was slow innovation. It was very incremental. And now there's a lot of chaos. Do you fear AI?
No, I don't at all. I'm very optimistic about it. I'm very like, hey, information excites me. So it's like, hey, you give me something to utilize and I'm gonna find the positive way to go about it. And I'm like, maybe I am a bit too optimistic, but I'm just like,
No, I think that you actually are always the person that's like, you shouldn't have fear. Like, you shouldn't have fear in anything. Like, and I'm like, Jojo, but like, there's the reality. And you're like, no, just eliminate that. And then a week later, I'm like, she was so right. Like, I don't know why I was like being logical about this.
I do think we usually overestimate how bad everything is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's also good to be delusional, right?
it is really good to me.
A little delusion is,
I mean, that's how we started this whole thing.
Yes, no, actually, that
you have to like believe in yourself for no reason when you're starting something
Literally
new.
no reason.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
that's
we
entrepreneurship.
We were like just talking about it and then like.
But this is such a great example because it's like we just decided to do this with like AI. Now, within the past month, I've learned so much about it that I'm like, why did I not get a head start earlier?
Well, and so cool. Like you're starting this new thing and you're taking the leap to do it. And like, I'm doing the same thing. And now we're just basically like talking about it. It's, and now it's real.
And now we're going to have you back for a recap in 5 years.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you were the blind leading the blind?
I think everyone felt that way at the very beginning of AI.
Very beginning.
Yeah.
Because AI came out how many years ago?
I mean, Gen AI really came out 3 years ago.
Okay. Did you know about it prior?
A little bit, like conceptually, because basically like DeepMind was a Google group that was building it. And so there was like, some amount of publicity around it. Traditional AI, I've actually worked in that space for a long time. It's been part of the work that I've been doing, for probably the last 8 years of my career.
What's a skill that made you successful that has zero to do with text, zero to do with Claude, AI, ChatGPT, nothing to do with Tridorian, but something that you implement in your everyday life?
100% writing.
Writing?
Yeah.
Why?
I am an okay speaker. I'm a really good writer. I think communicating with writing is really important.
Obviously, being in the space that you're in, there are big consulting firms, Accenture, Deloitte, and they're Google's best friends. Can you explain more of that to someone who doesn't know what they are?
I think they're Google's best frenemies. These are huge consulting firms that do everything from advisory to building software and doing implementation. A lot of the same stuff that Tridorian does. But they work with any technology and they'll sell any technology. So they might pitch Google one day, they might pitch Amazon the next. So from a Google perspective, if you're working with a really large client, they'll for the most part use a Deloitte or an Accenture because those are known quantities and you have a level of just quality assurance and they're used to working with huge enterprises. But if you're Google, you might prefer working with more of a boutique firm like Tridorian for certain projects, even at a large enterprise company.
Okay.
And especially, at smaller companies where they don't want to pay the huge price tag of a Deloitte or Accenture. And
So is that what makes you valuable? Your cost efficient or your results?
I think it's both. I mean, so one, we're really specialized. Like Accenture and Deloitte do a lot of work in Google. But they also do tons of work on other platforms. Most of our work is on Google, so we have a lot of expertise around their technologies.
How long have you had your relationship with Google?
So Tridorian APAC has been a Google partner since day one. So they've got, 2+ years of experience working alongside Google.
Do you ever find yourself struggling to explain to people who don't understand what you do?
All the time.
What you do? Okay.
Yeah. I
What's
mean,
your typical?
usually I just tell people I work in tech and I'll leave it at that.
No, but it's so funny because I know you from a party setting. I think we met New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
But you actually didn't even mention that you were in tech.
One of the things I love about living in New York is most of my conversations, work doesn't even come up.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like having that anonymous career?
I don't think that, I mean, I love what I do and like I'll talk about it for an hour on a podcast gladly. I love if there are people who find it interesting. But I think it's really important to be multifaceted too. Like just like it's important to have work-life balance so that you can perform well at work and in life. I think it's also important to be multifaceted and not let work be the only thing that defines you. And
So you're educated in other topics is what you're saying.
for sure.
What's another topic that you would say is your niche?
I mean, I have other maybe more like boring topics that I'm interested in, I guess. Like I'm an economics enthusiast.
Okay.
I'm a big reader of nonfiction and fiction.
Uh-huh.
I stay up on fitness and nutrition. Do I doom scroll?
Yeah, dude.
That's probably like my biggest bad habit, actually.
What does your feed look like?
God, it's such a mix. It's like obviously the random like AI news, but it's a lot of comedy. It's
You
just,
get a lot. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
comedy too. I get a lot of motivational stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
I get a lot of like adrenaline sports, actually. I get like
Yeah.
all the Red Bull.
All the men get that. I feel like everyone gets the Red Bull app except for me.
Sometimes I'm like, man, I really should have devoted my life to just going straight down mountains.
You really have to like sign your life away if you want to do that. Yeah. So what's your favorite platform for social media? TikTok, Instagram?
Probably Instagram. Yeah.
Instagram.
I mean, ideally, I mostly use it to keep in touch with friends, but then, then there's the doom scrolling.
Do you like social media? Do you think it's benefiting the next generation, or do you think it's damaging people and how they think?
I think the same of it as I think of literally all technology, which is it depends how you use it and it's got pros and cons.
So it's dependent on the user and how they utilize it.
Yeah. I made a no TV in 2026 rule when I started Tridorian.
Oh, okay, so you're out of that era now.
That's the end of the era.
So now you're fully like immersed in your work, and there's is that your vibe?
Trying to be real present.
Oh, trying to be present. Good luck when you work in tech.
But yeah, no, I think with everything that you say and kind of your core values, how you say AI handles the machine, humans own the relationships. So I guess in a sense, whenever these larger companies do have a great amount of fear, I think just having you as the spokesperson to it all kind of is, one, you're maintaining that relationship long term, but two, people are more trusting and they're just willing to see where it goes.
I mean, at the end of the day, all technology is to serve people, and like ideally it's to make our lives better. So I think there's still a really strong human element about not only like how do we like buy technology and how do we like architect what we're going to build, like that's all very human. But then it's also like it's at the end of the day, it's like it's people using these technologies too. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to figure out how is AI going to fit in with people's day-to-day workflows, or how are we going to change those day-to-day workflows so like we can use AI to help them make their jobs more effective. Like, yeah, it's a very like, that's why I think it's a human-centric thing.
I really love your leadership style. I admire it because you're like, people get to be more human at work and we get to focus on the things that are human and not stress over the things that AI can do for us. Because before we were using, ChatGPT and Clone, we're like stressing for hours and then we get it done in like 5 minutes. And I'm like, wow, I can actually be human again.
I know.
And maintain the relationships.
Yeah.
and
That's what you're
coexist with intention.
It's really interesting because there's kind of this trend happening where a lot of people are, maybe it's like a continuation of the quiet quitting trend. There's a lot of people who are kind of checked out at work because they feel like, oh, is my job going to be automated in 2 years? What does the future even look like? Yeah, like, is the whole trajectory I was on, is that gone now? Like, and I think, or there's people who like, they have a lot more free time because they've automated work with AI. And so now I think people are re-examining, okay, what's important to me? How do I define myself if I don't define myself by my job? If my career path has changed, like, who am I now? So yeah, like, those are scary questions, but they're also like very deeply human questions.
Best hire you ever made, and why were they the best hire you ever made?
Best hire I ever made was the best because they never stopped raising the bar.
One word that describes where AI is headed in the next 5 years.
It's obvious, but everywhere.
One word that describes where AI is headed in the next 10 years.
Not much further than 5.
Fortune 100 or scrappy startups.
Whichever has a builder mentality.
First thing you do when a deal falls apart.
Take a walk.
Being an employee or being a founder?
For me,
Mhm.
Founder.
A leader that shaped you that no one would expect.
I worked with a user experience designer a long time ago at my first startup. And this was way before I was going into leadership. And he basically made me realize that there are 2 ways to be a leader. And there's kind of this continuum of being a really brash and intense leader who gets results, or being like a more empathetic and personable leader who also gets results. And I'm not perfect, but I realized in that moment 100%, like, I wanted to go that path. I wanted to be a leader who was, led with empathy and was more of a servant leader. And he made this offhand comment about it. I don't think he realized what a big impact that made on my leadership style.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I think that we both kind of have different leadership styles, but
For sure.
they harmonize with one another,
Yeah,
right?
they do. They coexist.
You are more empathetic.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, I'm probably, if I were to take an approach, it would probably be yours.
Yeah, I don't think I'm always one or the other, but I do think I've always been striving to like get good results without being, a dictator.
Well, you're probably very adaptive too. So, AI is a space where there's a lot of fear, and you're kind of bringing in that human nature
Right.
and decreasing the stress behind it. So
Yeah.
I admire that. Well, thank you so much, Sean. We're so happy to have you on.
We're so happy to just dig into your life.
Thank you both so much. This is great.
We really appreciate it.